What is up, Teach Better family? We are live, and it's been a while since we've been live, but we have reason to celebrate today. This week has been a big week. I've got Joshua Stamper here. I have Charlie Peck with us. We're excited for the community to be celebrating their book that just came out this week. And we're going to dive into the book. I'm going to throw some questions at you. We want to hear all about it. And if you are watching with us live, you can drop in the comments if you have questions or you just want to fill it with some green hearts and celebrate Joshua and Charlie. That's cool too. Whatever you want to do. But I'm going to give you a couple minutes to get into the comments and start asking questions or start saying hello, grab a drink, grab a snack, whatever. We'll be back in about 17 seconds. Not gonna lie, haven't been live for a while, so I haven't had that song to dance to for a while. So I'm excited about that. So thanks for giving us a reason. Appreciate that, you two. How are you?
Great. Yeah. Josh, wonderful. Go. Gosh, it's so nice to be here with you. Josh, tell them how you're doing because you've got a lot going on.
I've got a lot. Goodness sakes. Well, first off, I was going to say, what's up, Katie?
That's what you were going to say, too.
That's actually not what I was going to say.
What's up, Katie? That's the whole.
What's up, Katie? All week I've been wanting to say that. No, usually I get to hang out with Jeff like once a week, and I didn't get that, so I'm excited because I get that fill, and then also to see the Teach Better family as they're jumping in the comments. Dr. Martinez, so great to see you in the chat also. So thank you all for joining us today.
I like that your excitement had nothing to do with the book.
No, I just love people. That that, buddy. I just love connecting.
Charlie, for that matter. What's going on?
I got to see her today. We recorded some podcasts. So
kidding me? We
get time
a lot.
We did. Josh and I normally we meet every Wednesday usually, and I couldn't do this one day. So yeah, there's a little bit of a withdrawal. But Charlie, it's been a while since I've hung out with you. So how have you been? Obviously excited about the book, but in general, it looks like you're just killing it, which is awesome. I love watching from afar and cheering you on. Like,
yes.
how are things?
Well, you are a big part of that journey for me, so thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Means a lot.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just so excited to do this work. I was in Minnesota yesterday doing a keynote for MESPA, and there's just so many incredible leaders, school leaders, educators, school counselors. Oh my gosh, everybody's just doing a great job trying to support youth mental health. So I'm incredibly just grateful, truly.
I love it. And so let's just get right into it. So the book is out, The Language of Behavior, a framework to elevate student success. So I was fortunate enough to get a peek at this and read the book prior to it coming out. I also got to endorse it, which I was honored to do. And I'm going to read it. I grabbed a couple quotes from what I said about it, and then I want to hear how you said it. So I referred to it as a passion-driven, science-backed guide that will transform the way you understand, respond to, and address student behavior. I might have mentioned that it's a must-read for teachers, administrators, and anyone dedicated to reaching all students, which is a big thing we're super passionate about here at Teach Better. And I may or may not have called it a beacon of hope during a time when so many really feel pretty hopeless. And I believe all of that. But I'm interested because obviously, I got it after it was done. So I got to read it. That was my first introduction to it. The two of you spent a long time writing it, piecing it together, editing it, moving things around. That's a long process. And I remember when we did our book, by the time we published it, I kind of forgot some of it, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I'm not sure if that's happened, but I love getting your perspective because it's much different than when we first read it. When we get to grab it and read it, it's very different than the ones who actually put it together. So that's how I would kind of describe it. Charlie, I want to go to you first. How do you describe this book when someone asks you about it?
I always say that it is a simple behavior plan. And it's so much more than that. But really, our teachers and educators, our leaders, everybody's struggling with student behavior. And it goes back to the teachers struggling because they don't feel equipped. They don't know what to do. But our leaders are the key to this transformation we're going to see in our schools. And so it really is a plan for them to have a simple approach. That's how I see it. And so that's why we closed every chapter with a take action section at the end so that they know exactly what to do. It's got to be practical. That's how I see it.
That's one of the things I think I love most about it is it's you can get a lot of reading books just reading it and hearing the principles and the ideas and the stories and the science behind it and stuff, but the actual prompts for action and activity make it real It's something that I can now actually like take and literally put into practice. I don't have to necessarily go through the process of like, well, how do I take this principle and this idea, this story, whatever? I literally have the prompt built. So I think I love how you just like simplified it down to like, it's just a simple guide. And it really is if you just follow the prompts. I think that works. So Joshua, your thoughts. How do you describe it? Assuming Charlie is not in the room.
No, Charlie is a huge part of that. And we'll probably later talk about just the construction of the book and how we came, because she's got the social work component. Obviously, we both have been teachers and have been in education for a long time, but I have kind of that leadership admin lens where she's got more of the social worker lens. And I think that's where we got this beautiful blend of being able to support educators regardless of where their title is. But like you said, we know that people are stressed. They're having a difficult time, especially this month. February, typically in any of my admin years, February is always the most referred month. It's the shortest, but it's the time where students are really making some poor choices. And so we wanted to make sure that we had a guide that's simple and easy, and like you said, could be implemented right away. Because that's the thing, is a lot of times books will have this kind of overarching theme or theory, and like you said, maybe some data that's backing that, but there aren't actual items where you can take the classroom right away. And that's what we really wanted to do, was something where, yes, you're stressed, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you those practical tools to be able to implement right away to make sure that you're helping yourself and helping those in the classroom.
I love it, and we're gonna get into the journey of it and how you guys kind of got here first. But first, I want to stick like to the meat of the book, sort of a what to expect kind of feel still. So, Josh, I'm gonna stick with you here on this, and then we'll go back to Charlie. What is the hope from your standpoint after all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into this? What are you hoping that educators walk away with? And I almost want to ask, like, if it was only one thing, what would it be? But I'll let you go a little broader than that if you want.
No, I could go down to one word. It's permission. Permission to do something different. We've done so many things the same for so many years that are just based on under tradition and experiences that we have as a student, or as, you know, something that we've experienced as far as like an admin has told us to do this as a teacher. And so we just always do the same thing. And obviously it's not working. That's why people are frustrated. Things have changed. Our culture, our country has changed drastically. If you look at the pandemic and the things that have occurred in our students' lives, and the result of that, people can see it, you know, and you hear that all the time. Our students have changed. Well, the process and the things that are set up in school haven't. So obviously there's friction there. And so for this book, hopefully you read it, and one, it gives you hope, but it also gives you permission to do something different than you've ever done in your campus or within your classroom.
I love that, because, you know, you hear often that one of the worst reasons for doing anything is because it's the way we've always done it. And so what I'm here is, this is permission to say, yeah, it's not how we do it anymore. We're changing this. And I love that. All right, Charlie, I'm going back to you. You can't use permission. It's got to be something different.
Oh, it's different. But I love that. I love it. And it's so true. So what I love about it is that we give people a simple way to think about things. So, for example, we talk about like the cycle of negative behavior, the cycle of escalation. And so Josh and I were very specific. We had to cut a lot out of the book. Remember, Josh, we had to cut a lot out that gave a background information on like trauma. Where's the behavior coming from? I mean, it's the language of behavior. We've got to give that background, but we had to take some of that out because we kept thinking, how do we frame this in such a way where somebody could just look at something that we're trying to say and just go and implement it quickly. So for example, identifying the manifestations of trauma and behavior, we condense that to like just thinking about it. Well, what happened? What are they trying to tell me? And what do they need that they aren't getting? Like simplifying it. So not only giving them permission, but how do we do this in such a way that fits into the real world of education? Because we are struggling. It is busy. It's got to be something they can immediately do that's easy and that they'll remember.
And I think the coolest part about it is that it is easy. And I don't know if I think I like simple better than easy. It's simple, but it's still effective, right? And I think too often we think, you look at behavior and trauma and everything that students go through, that's a complex situation. We are complex beings. Kids are even more so, I think. And I think it's often we go then trying to find complex solutions. And I love that it's simplified. It's simplified into easier action to take, that's still science-backed, that still makes sense, and that we can actually put in place. And instead of overcomplicating everything, we can just get focused on. I love what you said is what do they not have, what do they need, and what are they telling me, right? I think that's like it's so crucial. So I love that. All right, so let's go, because you talked about having to cut things off out of the book. Josh talked about the construction of it and stuff. So let's kind of go into the journey phase at this point. So you're both a part of the community. You're podcasters, you've blogged with us, you part of the Creative Club community. Josh, you obviously worked with us for several years, built the podcast network. You and I still meet weekly, although not this week. We still do mail, but like you guys are so connected to the group. And so like it's awesome to see that you connected and came together. But what was it like? How did it actually happen? I'm really interested to hear like how did it actually happen? Like whose idea was it? Did someone approach someone, or was it just like spontaneous on a random conversation? Did like Jimmy do a matchmaking? Like how did it happen? Either one of you can take it. Who wants to jump in?
I'll let you go, Josh, because the language of behavior title really is yours.
Okay. Well, I share that with Charlie, and I think this resource is beautiful because of her added voice to it. But to be honest, 6 years ago, my wife and I actually created a blog called The Language of Behavior. And it was kind of a two-piece where I was taking the admin perspective. She was taking a parenting perspective, because if people don't know, we were foster parents for 13 years in the state of Texas and had placements in our home and just learned a ton through that process. And it really did change the way that I did things as an administrator, because what we were learning as far as the trauma and the things that were going on and the behaviors that we saw within the foster care system and what we learned was far different than what we were doing in the schools. And so I was like, why is there such a disconnect? Obviously, this is working with foster students and the behaviors that we're seeing here. I'm seeing the exact same behavior. So why on earth would we not try some of these things on the campus? So that's kind of where the idea came from. I spoke on it for years. I always had this idea that I would then write a book called The Language of Behavior at some point. So I did pitch it to Jimmy because, I heard wonderful things about Connected Publishing. Jimmy, obviously, I respect him as an author, as a speaker, as an educator. He's brilliant. And so I pitched it to him, and he was like, I love it. It's got an admin perspective. I would love you to make it so that it's just kind of open to all educators. And I really sat on that for, goodness, maybe like 3 months after I had pitched him and given him some chapters. And through Teach Better, obviously with Teach Better, the communities that we have, Charlie's a part of the podcast network. You have a wonderful program, Jeff, that you've created is in that. And so I knew that she was on there. I had her on the podcast, Aspire to Lead, and everything she said was just like screaming to me, like she is on the exact same wavelength in regards to values and thoughts. And then I was thinking too, like her background as far as the social work component, like that would be a perfect voice to it. So I was on her podcast too. And yeah, I just reached out, kind of a cold email, and was like, hey, I have this book idea. I would love to pitch it to you. I think you would be a wonderful co-author. And then, the meeting was awesome. And Charlie was crazy enough to say yes to write this book with me.
I don't know, Charlie. I don't know if you heard it this way, Charlie. What I pulled out of that story was you're welcome. That's for me. That's what I heard. I don't know if anybody else heard that or not. Charlie, is that how you remember? Is that the story? Okay. So then let me ask, Charlie, you get this email from Josh. Obviously, I think you are already connected. You probably knew each other, at least interacted. You were on the podcast.
Yeah.
Was there any hesitation on your part? Or was it an immediate like, oh, heck yeah. Did you maybe even know it was coming based on the conversations? Or what were your thoughts when Josh reached out about the book?
Had no idea it was coming, and I did not hesitate for a second, not at all, because sometimes and you all know this, sometimes when you talk to somebody, even if it's a conversation on just a podcast, there's an immediate connection and understanding. Like you said, the values are there. And so I didn't have to think that through. It was very immediate, and I was excited immediately, and I love the idea. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And I love the background that Josh has, but here's what really sold me, you guys, and everybody listening in. It's all the wonderful things everybody always has to say about Josh Stamper. I mean, anybody who knows him knows that he absolutely loves kids and is trying to make a huge impact in the system. And so I loved that. That was just so easy. Yeah. So I am absolutely grateful, truly.
Charlie, we'll have to talk after. I'll tell you some things about Josh. Come crash. No, I'll tell you what. When Josh let me know that you two were doing the book together, there was a part of me that went, "Oh my God, why didn't I think of that?" Because obviously doing work with you, Charlie, and knowing Josh and stuff. I mean, it just makes sense. Like you connect on so many. It just makes sense. It blends so well, and the book brings that out. So absolutely love that. So let's talk about Jimmy. So you already mentioned this was published through Connect Ed Publishing, which is Jimmy Casas. You said, Josh, that you pitched it to him. How did that happen? Were you and Jimmy already talking about the book, or did you just take a shot, or how did that kind of come through?
No, I actually pitched Aspire to Lead a long time ago to him, and he was just starting his publishing company at that time. And so they weren't publishing a lot of books, and he already had like a year calendar constructed. And I had the book already pretty much done. I was like, nope, I want this out as soon as possible. And I reached out to Sarah Thomas, and it was like a no-brainer after I talked to her to like get this out as soon as possible. So I've had conversations with Jimmy before and really wanted to work with him. So I reached out to him. He's wonderful about getting back to you as soon as possible. And when I told him that I had connected with Charlie and wanted to write with her, there was a different level of excitement in his voice. It was very apparent that he was like, yes, let's do this. And Charlie, I mean, like, I swear, as soon as we sent over anything over to him as far as writing, like, we got the contract right away. So, I mean, he was like completely on board. Charlie has written with Jimmy before, so she can speak on that. But yeah, as soon as her name was attached, I feel like it was like, let's go. Let's get this done.
So Charlie, you already had was your first book with Jimmy?
No, sorry, yes, and it was with a different author, but yes, it was with Jimmy.
It was with Jimmy. Okay,
Yes.
I guess I didn't connect that to. So you already had the established relationship. So Josh went and pitched, and like it just made sense at this point.
That was a no-brainer. They're great publishing company.
Yeah, I haven't published with them, but I can only imagine from knowing Jimmy and the folks that he surrounds himself with. Josh, I love the fact that he told you no in the first book and you came back anyway. Like that's a lesson right there of sometimes it's just not the right time, right? And it makes sense to go there. So that's awesome. So let me talk about that, Joe, just the process. Because, when we do these celebrations, it's been a while, like I said, since we've done one of these. So this is really cool. A lot of people in our community have thought about writing a book, or maybe are in the process of, or maybe it's a dream of theirs, or they're a little timid about it. Can you, in this, either one of you, whoever wants to jump in, actually, I'm going to go to Charlie first, is sort of the process of coming up with and bring one kind of landing on an idea, a topic, a theme for the book, a title for the book, but then also like the work that goes into in the process, and then maybe share a little bit about how working with someone like Connect Ed and how that makes that easier or more streamlined and such.
Yeah. Well, certainly working with Connect Ed and Jimmy, I mean, the guidance there is tremendous. I mean, especially with my first author was amazing too, Dr. Cameron Caswell. And she and I had a lot of ideas, and then they helped us streamline that, give us a framework. And so they are top level for that. So working with Josh on this book, we wanted to know what truly was the need. We thought we knew, but we actually did a few webinars just to gather information, because even though we had ideas, we still wanted to be informed by what was going out and what they were really struggling with. And so we took a lot of data in and we kind of choreographed what we were going to do from there. And it ultimately came up with a structure. And so that's why we simplified it into a 3-tenant framework. Again, it had to be easy for them to follow and actually do and make total sense. So that's where that came from.
How difficult is it, honestly, actually doing the writing, putting it together, and I guess alongside that, if you want to share this, like how long did you work on this? And Josh, I know that you've had this book in your mind since I've known you. Yeah. But I don't know that I know how much you may or may not have already had written that pulled into this. But like, how long was the actual process? You guys, if I remember correctly, you did this fairly quickly, in my opinion. Am I wrong in that?
I mean, it was, yeah. I mean,
I think so. Well, that's what a lot of people don't realize, how long usually it takes. I mean, usually, like a lot of times, a publisher will give you a good 12 months to write it, and then there's at least 6 months of after you turn it all in, if you're lucky and you love everything on the first try. Like, so it can be a very long process. How long was it? I can't remember how long it was since when you said, "Hey, I'm writing this book with Charle," to, "Oh yeah, we're publishing in a couple weeks."
Yeah, I mean. So, I mean, it is a year, but it wasn't a year of writing, because there's so many other things that go with it, right? As far as, Jimmy took a look at it and he gave us some feedback in regards to the structure of it. And then Jeff Zoll went through and he edited the book on his own as far as, punctuation and cleaning things up and asking questions in regards to like, hey, I don't really understand this. Can you clarify? Things like that. And then you go into, the cover of the book and endorsements. And, there's other steps in that process that make it longer. Originally, we thought the book was going to come out a little bit sooner. So we did kind of rush in the sense of like, what do you think, Charlie? Like 6 months of writing? Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
And and so this was a different process because the first book that I did with Aspire to Lead was just myself. So I got to dictate everything. But the thing I loved about working with Charlie was the idea of just having meetings and just spitballing, but then also like, this is what my thought process is. And, having her, not that she disagree, but maybe challenge ideas or this should be in the book, this shouldn't be in the book. And I love that collaboration component of it. And I'm not going to lie, I love the fact that I didn't have to write a whole book by myself.
I was going to say, that's nice too, huh? Yeah. I remember when we did our book, there's 4 of us. What I love most was the other 3 saying, hey, Jeff, I like this, go deeper.
Yeah.
And we were able to challenge it. It's not a disagree. It was a challenge of like, hey, go deeper, like make me feel it. And then also, that I didn't have to write it all. So Charlie, how about you? Like what was talk about obviously this is the second time you co-authored the first book as well. So a little more experience in that sense, but obviously different people makes it completely different in my opinion.
Yeah. And it does.
Was it really different or?
It's just different because just different people and different timing and stuff like that, and different things you're bringing to the table. Not a good or bad difference at all. It was just different.
You can say if Josh was worse, like it's okay.
Way worse.
We're all family here. It's
such a drama queen. Come on. Listen, I swear I will try to find something bad, but I can't.
We've been trying for years, Charlie. There isn't anything.
Well, okay. So the basis of all of this is trust. It's trust. And so I kept saying, like there was no nonsense. So if I had an idea and I'm like, what about this, Josh? What do you think? I was thinking this, or, what do you think about this? And bringing your experience here for me, because this is lacking for me. It was no problem. It really wasn't a back and forth. It's like, that's great. Let's do this together. I love it. Let's go with that. Yeah. I mean, it truly was like that the entire time. So we could complement each other's experience in education that way, because there were things I was like, well, I haven't been a principal, so I can't answer that way. Fill that in for me, please. And then I could bring in the clinical perspective for a lot of different things. So it was very complimentary, and there was so much trust, and it was great. It really was.
This one is my pure curiosity, not premeditated prior to coming on. The cover. How many versions before you were good with it? I'm always curious about this. This is one of my favorite things to hear from authors, which is weird, but like, was it the first one and done? Or was it 15? Like, how many revisions did you have to go through?
I think there was 8, if I'm not mistaken.
8 different styles, or like they had the initial, but you wanted things tweaked.
So there was 4 to begin with, and then we said, okay, we like these elements. Can we see something with X, Y, and Z? And then we got 4 different mock-ups with our suggestions. And then me being the graphic designer, I couldn't help myself but to go in and tweak a couple things and say, hey, we would like just this slight change here, but love the concept. And they were wonderful.
You gotta love being the graphic designer who has to put the cover to the graphic designer.
I was very upfront.
It's like having a doctor as a patient.
I said, I don't want to be that guy, but I may be that guy if you want me to be. So they were very gracious, but it was a beautiful cover from the beginning. And they did awesome.
I enjoy the cover a lot. Charlie, curious if you can share this with me. Why was my endorsement not good enough to make the back cover? I'm joking. You do not have to answer that. I was trying to be clever,
and I just can't.
I know why. No. I was honored to do it. It's really awesome. You had some great.
I wanted to put it in the back of the book where no one can find it, but they made me put it in the front with everyone else. So
we were trying to hide it, right? Yeah.
I love it. All right. Before I let you go, I'm going to let you go, but I have kind of a 2-part question final, and we'll go to Charlie first. I want you to do 2 things. One, where can we find you? Where's the best place to connect with you? Social media, wherever you prefer people to connect with you. And then I kind of want you to leave. if you could leave anyone watching or listening later on the podcast with one piece of advice, what is it?
Okay. So where to find me? So I am on Twitter, X, whatever, LinkedIn and Facebook, just at Charle Peck. But you just email me, CHARLE, Charlie at thrivingeducator.org. You go to my website. I'm all there. Brad asked if we're going to do this together, if we're going to present together.
Yes, I just saw that.
Yeah.
Go.
And the answer is absolutely. We haven't yet. We've only done webinars, but we are going to be meeting up at the MTSS conference in California this July. And we definitely have plans for the future to do this together.
Love it.
So yeah, and just thrivingeducator.org, please reach out to me. There's a lot of great things that each of us are doing separately, but also together.
I love it.
Oh,
actually,
advice? Okay, go.
We had another question pop in. So I'm gonna go here. So you've both written books before. What lessons did you learn on this one in terms of writing and research? Great. Thank you, Dr. Martinez. Appreciate that. Either one of you can jump in because you're both, this is second book for both of you. So
yeah, go ahead.
Any
John.
new lessons from this book?
Yeah.
I keep trying to figure out which way to point to Charlie, but I'm failing miserably. So
she's that
yeah. So I think for one thing, and this is me, just my own brain, is I really had to like set a time and a space to make sure that I was consistent with my writing, because for me, writing is not my favorite thing to do. I'd much rather get on a podcast and talk than just sit down and write. So just to be disciplined in myself to make sure, hey, this is important. I need to get this done. And I want to make sure that I get this resource out. But then also when writing with someone, I also didn't want to disappoint Charlie. I think that was a motivator that I didn't have before, where if I didn't get it done, it's just me. So who cares? So the research part, we did a lot in regards to images, citing everything. That was very different too, in regards to the process of making sure that we had it backed. In my first book, it was more of a manifesto. So like, it was more about my own stories and experiences versus, this, we want to make sure that we had a lot of research behind it, because it's one thing to say this works. It's another to, say it with research. We're practitioners, but we're not researchers. So we need to make sure that we find that in, really good books and articles to make sure that folks can go and look at those resources to kind of help support what we're talking about, and even find more if they want to, with, the variety of resources that we have in the back of the book too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would definitely say just get informed by the people that you're trying to serve and the current issues they're dealing with and they need help with, because that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to give them the tools to just go out there in the world and do a better job, or just make we just want them to have joy in their work, which will go into their personal lives too. I mean, it's just such an important thing to remember, is that we all love kids. We all love this work, and it is overwhelming. We're in a chaotic system right now. So how do we just do this with more joy and leadership that we're confident with? And leadership can be in your classroom as well. So, and then we're trying to just ensure that we're doing the work with fidelity. So that's where the research comes in. So that was a great question. Yes, we have to be informed by the research. And we never claim to be experts in all of this stuff. I never call myself an expert, because I am always learning, always. So it's just practice, right? And then, Jeff, you asked me what my piece of advice would be, and then we'll get to Josh. Yeah. Is address one need at a time.
Ooh,
period.
Yeah. I love that. And let me, if I can maybe try to expand on that. I'm reading a book right now with our mastermind. We're doing a book study, and one of the things to talk about is habit stacking, which is where you just try to get one and then use that one to build on another one. I see that and here and in the book of like, get one in place and then stack another one on top of that, because they'll make it easier on each other. And then the third one, and it just becomes the system and allows you to do that to you. The word you use a lot was simple and easy, right? And it allows us to do that. So I love that. Start with just one. All right, Josh, to you, final question. One, best place to find you. Where do we get you? And then also, if you can leave us with one piece of advice.
Okay. So find me at joshstamper.com. That's my website. On social media, X, Instagram, Joshua_Stamper, which you can see on the screen. And then email joshua@joshstamper.com. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And then what was the last thing? Piece of advice?
One piece of advice, if you could leave us with one piece.
Remember the question that is asked of you. No. That's probably the best one,
that's
right?
actually a great piece of advice.
But in regards to the book, yeah, I think simple is better. I know that a lot of people feel like you're super stressed and I can't add one more thing, right? We hear that a million times, but these are things that are in the book that are simple, but then also are meant to make your life easy and actually gain more time in the classroom for learning. There's one piece there, the push-in model that we used on our campus, where you're bringing a counselor and another teacher, an administrator into class to take over for you, so you can have that one-on-one time with the student. And you may think of that as like, oh, that sounds like a really big thing, but it's not. It's literally you stepping up for like 3 minutes with a kid to figure out what's truly going on in their lives. I can promise you that you're going to gain so much time and build that relationship. And I think for everyone that's listening, it's just maybe implementing something that's really simple that is going to help you on a grand scheme. And so I'm super excited about this resource and getting that for folks to implement right away.
Awesome. Well, the book is out, The Language of Behavior, a framework to elevate student success. Joshua, Charlie, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks for letting me be part of this. This is awesome. Love you both and respect you both so much and appreciate you so much and love this book and the work and what it's going to bring to people. So thanks for letting me be a part of it, for all of us watching to be a part of it, and excited to see where it continues to go and seeing you together at more conferences as well. So appreciate everybody who's watching, listening, and we'll see you next time. Go get the book. It's on Amazon. You can get it. And make sure you leave them a review as well so other people find it. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.